Yo, what you lot say? This your boy here, and today what I've got for you is the 2015 Russian Grand Prix review for you guys. And yeah, let's get right down to this video. So we'll start off in practice. So practice had a very dramatic start. There was a diesel spill between turn 11 turn 12, I believe, just before the long straight. That caused a 30-minute delay. So then there was an hour of practice in the first session. But nevertheless, nobody did a lot of hard work in terms of race pace and that kind of stuff, race practice, you know. So really, it was just getting key knowledge of the track. So yeah, and then into Q2, it just got worse. You know, the rain came down, and then yeah, only a few people came out. There was only 8 that managed to set a time. The rest just didn't set a time at all. Because the rest of the weekend was going to be dry, so yeah. And then going into practice 3, we saw a big accident, and that was Carlos Sainz Jr. He lost the rear, crashed into the wall very hard. The front suspension, the front tethers really moving around quite a lot due to the impact, and he went straight into the wall very hard. Coming down the straight, so yeah. So and then afterwards, he was airlifted to hospital. Thankfully, he was okay and wanted to race, which he did, but he'd have to start in the pit lanes. Yeah. So that's great to know. To be honest, you know, everyone was very worried, you know, for the health and. For the health of Carlos Sainz Jr. because that was a very hefty impact, to be honest, and the way, you know, the car impacted all the Teco barriers, you know, it went in like a little bit to the side, so he was buried underneath the tyre barriers, but thankfully, like I said, he was okay, so that's great to know. Great to see that the safety of Formula 1 finally being showcased, you know, at full potential, so yeah. So with that being said, we moved on into qualifying. Qualifying got underway in very dry conditions. A lot of people setting a lot of quick times, but in the end, it was Ericsson, Ericsson, Hulkenberg, Stevens, and Murray who were out of Q1. So unfortunate for them. Q2. Same, not much really happened, to be honest. So in the end, it was the usual runners, thinking the likes of Button, Nazia, Perez, and even Massa, surprisingly. Massa really couldn't hook it up, you know, unlike Bottas, who was able to get into Q3 quite easily. But Massa didn't, and as a result, would start 15th, so really terrible qualifying for the Brazilian there. And then into Q3, that was when the big boys came on track. That's where the big boys did their talking. And yeah, and first to pounce was Nico Rosberg, setting a quicker lap time than Lewis Hamilton by a few tenths behind Bottas, picked Vettel by a few tenths as well, put himself up into third. Fourth was Vettel, and then fifth was Raikkonen. Ricardo doing well, he was 6th at the end, so good result by him. But in the end, it was Nico Rosberg who took pole position, even with because at the end of the session, Lewis tried to better the lap on his second run, but then ran wide. He locked up, ran wide, and that was his session over. So as a result, he would start 2nd place. Third was Bottas. Vettel couldn't do anything about Bottas in terms of pipping him to 3rd, so as a result, Bottas would start 3rd, Vettel 4th, Raikkonen 5th, Ricciardo 6th, Grosjean I believe 7th, Verstappen 8th, Hulkenberg 9th I believe. No, I think Maldonado 9th and 10th, and 10th probably might have been Naziev's, yeah. So moving on into the race, it was a good start from both Mercedes drivers, but Lewis Hamilton with the slipstream effect was able to slipstream and pull to the outside, but didn't have enough to overtake Nico Rosberg. And as they were maybe getting themselves around turn 2 onto turn 3, Hulkenberg spun, ran by himself. He basically ran wide, spun the car, and as a result, Verstappen clipped the side of Hulkenberg. He would manage to get through unscathed, but you only have it with a puncture, so yeah. And but then afterwards, Ericsson would not make it through unscathed. He would crash into the side of Hulkenberg, bringing out a safety car. And as a result, as the safety car was deployed, as they were coming into turn 4, the safety car was deployed, and as a result, Hamilton almost running into the back of Nico Rosberg as it was slowing down into safety car speeds. Yeah. So the safety car was called for a few laps, and then it was called back. But then the safety car pulled back into the pits, and we were back racing once again. Bottas, who dropped to 4th, moved his way back up to 3rd, so that was good to see. But then afterwards we saw Nico Rosberg complaining of throttle issues, which got worse and worse and worse, and got to the point that Nico ran wide and gave Lewis the lead of the race. And then later on would lose so much time to the point that he went into the pits, and as a result retired from the race. Unfortunate for Nico Rosberg, especially as he's 53 points behind in the championship. Now to be further behind has really put a sting in his tail in terms of his championship chances. Yeah. So as a result, Bottas moved up to 2nd. So did Vettel moved up into 3rd as well. So yeah. And then afterwards we saw some battling going on. We saw a lot of battling going on between the two Ferraris. Vettel trying to overtake Raikkonen. Oh, by the way, Raikkonen got ahead of Vettel. I forgot about that. Yeah, Raikkonen was ahead of Vettel. Sorry, my bad. Yeah, so Vettel was battling Raikkonen for 3rd place. They were battling quite hard and almost touched at one point. But then afterwards, Raikkonen ran wide as Vettel almost touched Raikkonen, which meant that Raikkonen had to give up the place to Vettel, which meant that Vettel moved up from 3rd place, Raikkonen 4th. So yeah. And then afterwards we had a big accident, and that was Grosjean losing the rear end and crashing heavily into the Techco barriers in the outside of turn 3, bringing out another safety car period, and as a result that allowed a lot of teams to pit under the safety car period to try and see if they can make improvements to their race. And they did. For a few, they did. Perez, the lead car that were pitted was Massa, who was 7th. So yeah. So Massa with the fresher tyres had a perfect seat was in prime position to overtake a few cars, maybe even challenge for a 3rd or a 2nd or something like that, or even challenge for the win. So yeah. And then during the safety car period, Lewis complained on the radio that the safety car was going too slow because he couldn't get the tyre temperatures that he needed. Which he told to the team, which they told to the FIA, but nothing didn't happen in terms of the safety car speed. So yeah, so Lewis had to do what he could to keep the tyre temps in good condition. And then as the safety car came back in, the race got back going again. Nothing too spectacular happened at the restart, just a few jostling for positions, that kind of stuff. So yeah. And then afterwards, we came to the first round of pit stops. The Ferrari or Vettel pitted first, obviously, because the Ferrari, the lead car out of the two gets to pit first. So that's what happened with Ferrari. They pitted Vettel first because he was the lead Ferrari. So they served him first. Then afterwards, Raikkonen pitted as well, and Bottas pitted first. Sorry, my bad. Bottas pitted first, and then afterwards Vettel pitted 2nd, and then Raikkonen pitted 3rd. Sorry, my bad on that one. And then as a result, as they re-emerged, it was Vettel who got second place over Bottas in third and Raikkonen fourth. Bottas being held up by a little bit of traffic, and as Raikkonen came into view, was held up by Ricciardo. So yeah, and actually Ricciardo would play a big story in some of the racing, some of the key racing. So yeah, and then at the front, nothing much from Lewis. He still gets the lead. Also, we saw Sainz, who was running a beautiful 7th place, especially from what happened yesterday. Was running an awesome 3rd place. Was running an awesome 7th place, which would give him a few points, you know, which would be a fantastic result for him, especially like I said from yesterday's year. Which unfortunately that didn't last for long, as the brakes gave up on him. He spun the car, ran into the Tepco barriers, almost the exact same as yesterday, and yeah, he had the front rear wing damage, which then would explode off his car and onto the racetrack, which should bring out the yellow flags, but thankfully that was only for a few brief seconds, as the marshals would retrieve it and put it back on the outside of the track. So yeah, but then later on, Sainz, but then a few yards later, Sainz would pull off, and that would be the end of his race. So unfortunate, to be honest. I mean, it hasn't been his weekend, you know. What with that scary accident and now this, I mean, it just hasn't been his weekend, to be honest. Hopefully he can bounce back next time out in Austin. So yeah. And then afterwards we saw Perez running in 3rd place. Ricciardo was keeping Bottas and Raikkonen behind, but the big talking point was Perez in 3rd place, who had managed to make the strategy of pitting under the safety car work by getting himself in 3rd, which was a fantastic call. Whoever created that plan, whoever created that strategy, to get an award for that, because that was a beautiful strategy, you know, putting him right in a good position, you know, for a podium there. So yeah, so he was in 3rd, Ricciardo was 4th. They were both on the same strategy. Ricciardo pitted on almost the exact same lap as Perez, yeah, under the safety car, so yeah. But Ricciardo's 4th wouldn't last for long, as both Bottas and Raikkonen would get ahead of the Red Bull Ricciardo there, so yeah. And then afterwards, Bottas would chase after Perez. So too Raikkonen as well, but Raikkonen would come later on in the latter part of the race. Yeah. But yeah, Bottas was closing a lot on Perez, and then as they came up into the corner after the straight, he made the dive up the inside, a good move, a nice clean pass, which would put him up into 3rd place. A good move by Bottas there. And then later on, Raikkonen would overtake Perez, I believe it. No, and then a few seconds after, Raikkonen would get ahead of Perez around the outside with the better traction of the tyres. Yeah. So Perez, after beautifully controlling 3rd place, would drop down to 5th. So unfortunate for him, a potential podium just been taken away. I think had it been a lap earlier, Perez would have got the podium. So yeah. But it wasn't over yet. Raikkonen and Bottas were still battling for the last place on the podium. So yeah. And as they were coming through turn 3, Raikkonen got a good run on Bottas. But as they came into turn 4, Raikkonen did a dive bomb down the inside, did a really late last minute overtake, dive bomb on Bottas. It didn't work out, and as a result, Bottas got rear-ended, sort of T-bone rear-ended by Raikkonen, which sent Bottas into the wall on the exit of turn 4. Raikkonen would carry on. He would get a bit of front wing damage, a bit of suspension damage as well. He would later finish in 5th place because in 3rd place was Perez. Perez managed to survive all of that and managed to sneak past the 2 of them and get 3rd place. So yeah, fantastic result by Perez there. Really making really taking advantage of others' misfortunes. So yeah, but in the end, it was Lewis Hamilton who took the victory, a very commanding victory over Sebastian Vettel behind, who finished second, only 6 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton. So yeah, very close. Third was Perez. Like I said, a great result, especially for him. You know, he hasn't had a podium over a year, so that is fantastic. And also to their team as well, a great bunch of guys, and to see that team on the podium, fantastic to see. So yeah, fourth was Massa. Good result by him, especially coming from 15th on the grid. So yeah, good result. Fifth was Raikkonen, but Raikkonen has been is under investigation by the stewards. So yeah, what are my thoughts on this? I think Raikkonen was way too far back to make a move, to be honest. I mean, it was just too desperate. I think it was way too desperate, to be honest. I mean, he should have been patient and waited until the last straight, because he still had he still had one more DRS zone to mount an attack on Bottas. So yeah, he still had a lot of corners to go. So there was so many opportunities for Raikkonen to make a move on Bottas and get that podium position. You know, it was just so silly from Raikkonen there. You know, he knew it wasn't going to work out, but decided to go for it. You know, just as desperation, to be honest. I mean, he really should have been thinking it a lot more than he was, to be honest, because that was just way too far back, to be honest. And I think honestly it will definitely be a penalty, to be honest, because that is just so ridiculous. Definitely a penalty. What kind of penalty? I think honestly, if it was my opinion, 20-second penalty, because that is just ridiculous, to be honest. You know, you can't be doing that, to be honest. And also to be taking out a driver who was going to be on the podium, you know, taking out a driver like that and also putting him out of the points, really, it's really bad, to be honest. So I think 20-second penalty for Raikkonen, just stupid manoeuvre. What was he thinking? If that was me, I would be raging. It would be probably like NASCAR raging, to be honest. So yeah. But nevertheless, a fantastic weekend for Lewis Hamilton. Even though Nico had the upper hand through most of it, Lewis managed to overhaul Nico in terms of the racing. So yeah, but bitter disappointment for Rosberg as well. He'll be massively upset and massively disappointed with his weekend. A great opportunity for him to take some points away from Lewis's lead. So yeah. So yeah, now he's going to have to hope and pray that Lewis has problems in these last few races. So yeah. So that's been this video for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, then hit the like button below, subscribe if you're new. It has been your boy, I am out. Peace.
Yeah.